Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Running the Bases podcast. We are here in episode number 3 of season 1, and I am so excited for this one. I'm your host, Michael Garaffa, and welcome. We have had a lot of baseball taking place in the last week from September 10th to September 16th, and today I have my very first guest along with us. Tell him your name.
Well, my name is Marco Peralta, and I want to say it was quite an honor because you're saying this is your very first guest, so it feels pretty special to be your first guest on this podcast. So thank you for the opportunity, man. Well,
you're welcome. It's always great to have some other feedback than just myself. And so tell them. So I want to have a little bit of a scale of, what's your favorite team, favorite player, and who's somebody on that's not on your favorite team that you really like to watch play.
So my favorite team is the LA Dodgers. I grew up watching the Dodgers. I guess you could blame the Sandlot because of that, because I always try to become Benny the Jet Rodriguez. Like there's a scene where he's always like, he's about to face the dog and he's popping his knuckles and he's moving his foot around and like moving his hat. I would do that all the time when I would see the movie. And my favorite team, the Dodgers, is Corey Seager. Yes, he's battled injuries the past couple of seasons, but he's been my favorite player since I really got into baseball. Ever since like when he came up as a rookie, I think he was just a phenomenal player, a big shortstop. A lot of people say like, oh, he's just too big for a shortstop, but he's getting the work done.
He is big for a shortstop.
Yeah, he got the job over Manny Machado. So
that's true.
That's a big thing, So, and I guess you could say I don't have a specific player that's outside my team that I enjoy because there's so much broad talent out there that it's like, wow, it's hard to pick just one. Because like obviously if you have a team, you select one player that stands out for you. But when you have the whole rest of the league to choose from, Mike Trout comes out, Justin Verlander comes out. For some people, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. comes out just because of the name. There's just so much talent out there that's hard for me to say I have a specific favorite player outside of my personal favorite baseball team.
Yeah, and I've never actually given I realize I never gave my personal input on that, but on the podcast. But for me, as you may know if you've been listening, I'm a New York Mets fan. Favorite player is Pete Alonso, no question about that. Since he's come up, I mean, Big P, I love the dude. I've gone throughout the year between J.D. Davis, Jeff McNeil, but it's kind of solidified as Pete Alonso. And other than that, I mean, I told you that it was Rhys Hoskins a while back, but I mean, I realized over time because I thought I was like, it's not Rhys Hoskins, and then I realized it's Ramon Laureano, the center fielder for the Oakland Athletics. I watched him play in the wild card game last year against the Yankees, and man, I mean, I saw it right away. The dude has an amazing eye at the plate. He was up in a critical position at one point. I think it was like second and third and 2 out. And the guy was taking pitches that were like an inch off the plate in his rookie season in a wild card game at Yankee Stadium with the fans yelling at him. Like to be able to do that and have that kind of eye in that kind of situation is just, to me, it caught my eye and I've liked him ever since. And this year he's having a great year. So that's that. But now that we've gotten the introductions out of the way, we are going to kick it off with some of the MLB news over the last week. The biggest bit of news here was Christian Yelich, the star, obviously, of the Milwaukee Brewers and reigning MVP. He fractured his kneecap on a foul ball, ironically, at Marlins Park, and is going to be out for the rest of the year. This is a killer blow for the Brewers. What is your take on this?
Honestly, it sucks for the Brewers because he's their MVP of the whole entire season. And to see like how ironic it happened in Marlins Park, I was like, wow, maybe there's a curse at Marlins Park for their former players. Like what if Giancarlo comes back and something happens to him? You never know. But the fact is that Christian Yelich being another MVP caliber season, just to him go away like that, and it's such a critical point for the Milwaukee Brewers when they're fighting a wild card spot. It's very, very tough with them. But at the same time, maybe some of his momentum, some of his luck or talent is transferring over to Ryan Braun, because Ryan Braun's been wearing his jersey under his own jersey to kind of like still make him feel like he's part of the team or doing some contribution to it. Because when you have that kind of mentality, that camaraderie in the baseball team, it's really, really important, especially at the kind of stage they're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's most definitely, and I feel bad for Christian because this could have very well been, I mean, you never know what he would have done down the stretch, but it could have been his second straight MVP, and that doesn't happen very often, especially with MVP, because with MVP, they take a look at even pitchers in that, not only hitters. I mean, with Cy Young, it's a little bit different to win back-to-back Cy Youngs because only pitchers can win that, but to have a consistent hitting season back-to-back years, especially with the year that we've been seeing out of guys like Cody Bellinger and Anthony Rendon, I mean, it's hard to be in even a discussion, but I mean, it's horrible for the Brewers. But since then, they've only lost one game, which just goes to show you that they are resilient. It's almost as if they're playing for Christian Yelich. I remember in the NLDS, and you obviously remember this very well, in 2015 when Ruben Tejada got injured by Chase Utley, the Mets played for Ruben Tejada. They said, we want to beat the Dodgers because we feel like we need to win for Ruben Tejada, and they did, and they made it all the way to the World Series, and that was a turning point in that postseason. And sometimes that's all you need is for a player to sometimes even hurt themselves, no matter how weird that sounds. Sometimes if a player gets injured, to have that kind of rising in your team momentum, it's great. And especially for them playing in such an important spot. We're going to talk about the wild card a little later, but for them to be in such an important spot right now, it's huge for Yelich to be out, but I mean, they're playing really well. The next thing here, we have the MLB setting a new home run record. I mean, not like there was any surprise here. It's almost as if like I wasn't even like excited about it. It's not like I went and I was like, wow, we broke the home run record. It's like, yeah, all right, whatever. Because they're probably gonna break it like every year now, But I mean, I talked about it in a previous podcast of the baseballs being juiced or not. I didn't really get into detail on that, but because I mean, we never know. I don't really want to talk about something without with the hard facts, but I think it's pretty cool to set the home run record. It was Jonathan VR who broke the record with his home run, but I mean, it's just like, to me, I kind of just mold over it.
Yeah, honestly, when it's home run records, like, yes, it's great, but when it's a personal one, like if you're like Pete Alonso, he's about to break Aaron Judge's home run record.
I hope. Yeah,
we hope so, because I'm not a big fan of Aaron Judge just because he's a Yankee. But if it's like a collaborative, like I wouldn't expect it. Well, I wouldn't be surprised about it. But if it's like a personal, like we were saying about Pete Alonso, when Cody Bellinger broke it with 39 a couple years ago, that is something very special. But when it's something like a team thing or like a league thing, I'm like, whatever, As long as my team is doing good, I don't care about that record.
Exactly.
And at the same time, I think a big reason why it's been broken is just the whole technology nowadays. They're able to analyze pitchers a whole lot better, manage their ticks, all that kind of stuff. Like Darvish, when it was the Worlds against the Astros, they were picking up his ticks of how, like, when he's going to throw a slider, So they just how the technology has been able to help out hitters a whole lot more is a big reason why the home run record was broken this year.
Yeah. So we'll have to see in upcoming years, but I feel like it's probably going to be broken at least like 2 more times within the next probably like 3 or 4 years. I wouldn't be surprised just with the way baseball is going right now. Like you said, the technology obviously playing a huge factor in that.
Would you say also like the fact of they say something revolutionary when it comes to launch angle is a big reason why it's been happening? I
mean, I think so. I mean, if you look back, I mean, I started watching about like 9 years ago, but when I started watching, you would see players try and swing level on the ball. Like if you go back and you watch a replay of like Jimmy Rollins from in his prime, you wouldn't see him like dropping his shoulder. You'd see his shoulder stay level and he would try and swing smack on the ball. And, maybe sometimes he just hit it like he was a little bit out in front of it, so he'd pull it down the line for a home run. But the guys back in, I mean, you never saw that. I mean, you had Prince Fielder was probably the first guy in this generation to start the launch angle thing. I mean, if you remember his swing, the guy would like swing.
Literally go under the ball he would, every time.
Yeah, you would see him start, like the bat would start at his like waist and it would end up at his shoulder because the guy can hit. But now you're seeing everybody do that. I mean, Pete Alonso's a guy who, I mean, look, I've seen him hit line drives with like launch angles of like 15 degrees that leave the park, but that's just because of his power. But I mean, if you look at players, there are guys who have just changed their entire careers from being line drive hitters to now hitting home runs. I mean, it's almost as if you can't succeed in today's day and age if you don't hit home runs unless you're a guy who's got a boatload of speed. So it is changing the game, and I think that most definitely is the reason why. The next thing here on the MLB news, a pitcher, very sad news for the Toronto Blue Jays, Tim Mesa, a lefty. I don't know if you've seen the video, but he blew his arm out on the mound in a game against the Yankees. It was, it was horrible. The guy, it was too bad for him. He threw the ball, and it was, I'm sure you've seen videos before, people blowing their arms out that right away.
It's not pretty.
Yeah, they drop. I mean, it didn't look as bad as some other ones that I've seen in the past, but he threw it, and he knew immediately. He got on the ground, he's crouched down, he started crying on the mound. You could see him physically in tears on the mound, whether it's because of the pain or because he realized that, wow, this may just even end my career, or maybe even both. It's an overflow of emotions, and it turned out that he needed Tommy John surgery. injury. He's going to miss all of next year, and he's a young pitcher. Young pitchers nowadays, you need to build your resume early. You need to have a long tenure first before you get that injury, because if that happens to you and somebody else comes up next year and pitches better than him, he may never play in the big leagues again. So, I mean, if you think he doesn't get this injury, he comes back next year, he's in the rotation again, maybe has a better year. But I mean, it's not good. I feel bad for the guy. I mean, he hasn't ever been an amazing pitcher. I mean, he's been a back of the rotation guy, but that's even worse. As a back of the rotation guy, you know that your job's on the line at any given moment. Now that he's missing an entire year, it's heartbreaking for me.
Yeah, because the guy's just 27 years old, and we know that the Toronto Blue Jays have not been a top caliber team for the past couple of years. What I've been saying the past couple of weeks, I've talked about baseball. The only good thing about the Blue Jays is that big trio that they got.
Right.
That's pretty much it. So, like, for something like this to happen to such a young player, it really makes you sad, because you're like you were saying earlier, it could either end their season, end their career, or anything like that. Because, or like you said, it might be their last outing in a major league field. You know, right. So it's very tough, because when you throw out your arm, when you're done, when you get that surgery, you never know how you're going to throw again.
Right. If
you're going to throw like more for speed, or you're going to lose a lot of speed, lose control, or gain more control, you never know. Yeah. Like when Corey Seager, when he got his Tommy John surgery, when he was able to get some ground balls and throw some balls around, he was like, I feel like I have a new arm.
Yeah.
You want to get that reaction from a pitcher, because you depend on him in certain situations. If he's a starter, you want to make sure he can throw for 6-7 innings. If you have a relief pitcher, you want to make sure he can come in situations to be able to throw the strikeout that you need, the ground ball that you need, the pop-up that you need. When you want that kind of reaction, when it's from a shortstop like Corey Seager, you're like, okay, whatever. But when
all he needs to do is just throw a ball straight.
Basically. And if it hits him, if it goes to him, you just need that throw. But when you're depending on a guy to throw at least 3 pitches to get a strikeout, that is more crucial for a team.
Yeah, because, I mean, like you said, you may not even have a single throw in a game as a shortstop. You never know if they don't hit it to you. But as a pitcher, you're guaranteed to throw at least one time. Yeah, and most times, like at least 10, depending on reliever. And a starter, you're expected to maybe throw 100, and that's what he is. So
it really depends, like, what kind of manager you want.
Right,
like,
exactly.
I would just want you for 2 pitches, and that's it.
Right, exactly. And it just completely depends on your pitcher, the situation. And I mean, look, for a guy like this, I mean, you look at it, and I mean, to see the emotion on his face, he clearly recognized the importance of what was happening right then and there. And they said after the fact that his fears are recognized. And as we saw with Aaron Barrett, you never know. It may not be your last Tommy John surgery. Just because you get it once and they fix it doesn't mean that it's impossible that it happens again. It's very unlikely, but we've seen it happen with guys like Johnny Venters, and they don't end up coming back till their mid-30s. So it's one of those just heartbreaking things that you really hope never happens again.
Yeah, when you see stuff like that, and I'm saying I've experienced it, I'm pretty sure a player experienced like when they throw out their arm, just everything you worked for, everything you dreamed of could potentially be gone because of one pitch or one throw. That's pretty much it. So it really sucks, because like you were saying, when one guy goes out, they get the next man up. So, and you never know if that guy's going to be, you know what, he's throwing better than you. You know what, you're going on low A, high A, double A, triple A. We don't know. We don't care, because this guy's throwing more heat than you.
Right.
So that's the thing.
Especially in a day and age where velocity is so important.
Exactly. So it really sucks for him. And like what we're saying, he's been on Toronto Blue Jays. I do see him coming back. Hopefully, he's a young pitcher. If they able to give him one more shot at the major league level, it would be awesome. If someone comes up through that farm system, very unfortunate, but I do see him playing once again in minor leagues, hopefully in the major leagues again.
Well, the Blue Jays also got 2 top-tier starting pitchers from the Mets in the Stroman deal. They got Anthony Kay, who I think they rushed him a little bit. I mean, they called him up beginning of September. He made his first 2 starts. He got really hammered. But they also got Simeon Woods Richardson, who is a young pitcher. He's in the lower minor leagues, but by the time Tim Mays is ready, he may be major league ready. Yeah. And he's got even higher potential than Anthony Kay does. And, the good thing, the bright spot about this that I could take out of this is that it's the end of the year. Yeah. When you get Tommy John, you're going to have probably a year and a half gone. Zach Wheeler was out for 2 years. He missed 2 full seasons in the big leagues because of Tommy John surgery, because he got it at a really bad time. If you get it at a point where you look a year and a half from now, that's March of 2021, which is right before the season starts.
Yeah.
If you get that in the middle of the year this year, you miss half the year this year and all of next year, which is just a heartbreaker because you're missing even more time. This is probably the ideal time to get it. He's only going to miss maybe 2 or 3 starts. And on top of that, he may not even miss more than just one full season. So if you're a pitcher like Tim Mayza, you've got to look on the bright side and say it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, I think something that he could look for in the positive side as well is that he knows that the Blue Jays are not the team that they're doing, that what they hope they would be this season. So just if it was like in the playoff game that they were able to play, or even in a World Series, and yes, losing a player like this would have been something very, very sad. But he needs to remember, like, okay, Toronto's a kind of rebuild situation, so don't stress about it too much. Yes, you're going to play baseball again, hopefully. And if you're ready and you're able to still throw the heat that we've seen ever since you came up into the league, then yes, you're going to have a spot. So he shouldn't be too worried about it because Blue Jays, not the top caliber team that we're all hoping for. Hopefully they're going to be that in a couple of years with that big 3-0 if they are able to stay there. But besides that, Tim has to take his time, get healthy, and get ready to play some baseball when he comes back.
Yeah, and I just one quick fix before I said that he was a starter. I actually wasn't sure of that, but he is a reliever. So just to fix that. The next thing here was really another really disappointing thing was Mike Trout. He ended up getting season-ending foot surgery. I knew he had a procedure done on his foot, which was going to knock him out a couple days, but it turned out that it was a little worse than that. And people tend to look at like season-ending and be like, wow, that's horrible. But I mean, if you think there's 2 weeks left, I mean, it's not like he's going to be out for 3 months. I mean, you never know. He may be out for a month, but that's not going to really kill him. I mean, most people don't start their off-season routines until like mid-November, so he probably won't even miss anything. He's just going to miss the end of the year. And I still don't even think it's going to affect his MVP at the end of the year. So it's disappointing, but it's not like the Angels are in any contention. And I really don't think there's anybody else who could ever even come close to taking the MVP away from him.
The thing about Mike Trout is that he's kind of like in a Tim situation, like end of the year, you got hurt, end of the season, your team is not going to get far anyways.
Right.
The thing about Mike Trout is that I have so much respect and admiration for this guy because after he had his contract extension, he's still playing top caliber baseball.
Absolutely. And he didn't even get like what he deserved. I think he deserved more money than what he's getting.
This guy is hands down, in my opinion, the best player in baseball for the past couple of seasons.
I think he's the best player in baseball history, just based on the way.
That's a big one.
It is a big one, yeah.
The only thing is that I just wish that Trout was on a team that would give him a ring.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy that hopefully if he ends up getting retiring and not having a ring, just his stats alone is going to give him to the Hall of Fame. But it would be a whole lot nice if he's able to have a World Series ring on his finger or World Series MVP, anything like that under his name. Because like we were saying, Mike Trout, one of the best players in history of baseball, to be able to not get a ring in his entire career could be heartbreaking. So that's the one thing about Mike Trout. I respect him so much that even after the extension he got, he's still playing top-notch baseball.
And if you think about it, he went for an extension on a team like the Angels. You look at Manny Machado, who left the Orioles. He's like, I don't want this team anymore.
Yeah.
I'm done. He decided, you know what? I don't care about the ring. I want to play. I like the Angels, and they're going to give me the money that I want. And I don't even think for him it's about the money. I think he probably just took the first offer he got and was like, heck yeah, I just want to play baseball. Yeah. That's the humbling part about it. He makes connections with fans that you don't see. And it's such an amazing thing. And it's disappointing that he's going to miss these last few weeks of the season because obviously you would love to see what he could chase. But I mean, for me, it's good because it eliminates somebody for the home run race. But I mean, obviously that was changed with Eugenio Suarez. But I mean, Mike Trout.
You lost 2 players for the home run
right
now, so
right. Even though Yelich wasn't really hitting, but still.
Yeah.
So,
but he was there before Pete Alonso came around.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was that. But I mean, not super big news, but obviously worth mentioning. And the last thing here was something that broke this morning that was really, I mean, shocked me, shocked you, shocked the world, was Felipe Vasquez, closer, top-notch closer for the Pirates that was, as you mentioned to me the other day, was talked about being traded at the deadline. Mm-hmm. Good thing he wasn't, because that would have been horrible for any team he was traded to. If he was traded to a contender, they would have just lost their closer. So that's even more important to think about. But he was arrested on account of child pornography, child solicitation, and providing obscene materials to a minor. And it turns out that he'd been in a relationship with this girl since she was 13 and she's now 15 years old, and he sent her a video of him performing a sexual activity. So he's going to jail. That's rape. He's going to be in jail for a while.
Yeah.
That, first of all, that may ruin his career. He may never come back because maybe nobody will ever want him.
Ruin it.
Right. He may never come back on a big league team. There may be nobody who ever wants him. I mean, that's immediately going to eliminate like 15, 20 teams saying, we don't want a child molester on our team. Who are you kidding? I mean, there may be some teams being like, well, we're really desperate and, maybe you're past that. But, I mean, come on. You're an adult. If you're going to have a relationship with a 13-year-old, I don't know what's wrong with you, but clearly a lot. I mean, like there's messed up people in this world, but that's another level.
Yeah, when I got the message from you, I was in the middle of class, and I was like, is this like real for a second? And then I had to think about it. I was like, if it's like all the sources that everyone's saying it, then this has got to be truthful. And like we were saying a couple days ago, he was one of the most wanted relief pitchers in the trade deadline. So just the fact that a lot of people that they didn't go for them, they got in luck. Yeah. So I guess you could say they won that trade without it even happening. Because when you go through like people like that, it's something scary, because when you see him in the clubhouse, or do you see him like just going around, you don't know if you could take your daughter around him.
Absolutely.
Or even if your son around him, because you don't know what he's thinking.
Yeah.
So that's just disgusting in my opinion, because that's something that's inhumane, because you're an adult, you have so much money, you're in the major leagues, and you waste. I don't even
know if he has a wife. Like, does he? Like, I'm gonna check that.
I have no idea if he has a wife. But even if he did not, it still doesn't remove the fact that he was talking to an underage girl that was barely getting to her teenage years, bro. Yeah. So that's just disgusting. That's not something you're not supposed to be doing at all, because that's just inhumane. That's just disturbing.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not seeing anything here about him having a wife, but. That's just like what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Like, how can you ever like not even think about that, but put your career on the line? Like, he's blatantly knowing, like, man, if I get caught, I'm screwed. Yeah. But I don't care. Like what are you doing? Like, but I mean, you think of teams that were looking at him. I don't remember exactly who was looking at him at the deadline. I think the Brewers were involved, but
Dodgers were looking at him too.
Yeah. So I mean, if you think about that, having that guy, I mean, for a team that he's just a reliever and they're not using him as a closer, it wouldn't be that big of a blow. But if he's your closer, man, you're screwed. Especially right now, you're saying, man, we're going to be good. Even the Dodgers, if they put him in over Kenley Jansen because he was so inconsistent, and they used Vasquez and Jansen's not getting the reps right now, you're saying we're going to be good for the playoffs. He's pitching well. And then boom, this happens. He's done. He's not coming back.
It kind of happened what was going on with Julio Urias, like when he got the allegation of something that was going on with his girlfriend or wife. Right. I don't know if they're married or anything like that. Just like what was going on, we're like, man, that's a big piece we could use in the postseason come September, because he can be either a starter for us or he can be a relief pitcher for us. So I would completely understand that, because when you have a dependency on just one guy to make the job and get you to the next phase of the postseason, whether you're in the wild card, divisional conference, or even the World Series, man, you don't want a player that is going to be bringing in controversy from the outside media all the time, because it affects not just the team, but also your personality, because besides players, they're humans, and that messes them up inside, and morale-wise, mental-wise, everything, man.
And friends aren't going to look at him the same.
Exactly.
If you think about it, I mean, I just realized this. I mean, you remember last week he got into the fight with his teammate. Yeah. He got into the fight with Kyle Crick. They got into a physical fight in the clubhouse that led to them both getting suspended. So on top of the fact that he was suspended, we find out that he was raping a child. I mean, like, it's just that can't happen.
The question is like, whose child was it? Because it could have been one of his friends. It could have been one of his friends, like. If this comes out like,
and maybe it was like one of Kyle Crick's family members. You don't even know.
You don't even know, because that image, or just that dark image, is going to be attached to him for the rest of his life. Because if you go up to him and you have like your son or your daughter, or just you have a newborn baby, you never know how he's going to react, or what is he going to think? What is he thinking? What's going on in his head? Like, oh, I could be doing this. Like, no, like trusting him. We're talking about trust a couple days ago in class. I wouldn't trust this guy.
Yeah, not at all. So that's that. That'll do it for the news from the last week. We're going to move on to the highlights. Just obviously not going to be spending as much time on the highlights as the news, because, with the news, it's a little bit more, it affects a lot more things. But with the highlights here, We're starting off with Tuesday, September 10th. This is last Tuesday, the day of the last podcast. And this is a huge game right now for the Tigers. After trailing 6-0, the Tigers scored 6 in the second inning to tie the game against the New York Yankees. And then Jordy Mercer got a walk-off single in the bottom of the ninth to win the game 12-11. Anytime you win a game 12-11 with a walk-off is great. Mm-hmm. But for the Tigers, who have the worst record in baseball, going against the Yankees, that's just got to feel even better. I mean, it's huge for them.
I think it's more of a bummer for the Yankees more than it's a hype for the Detroit Tigers.
Absolutely.
Because like you're trying to get the best record in baseball to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. That's the thing about the Yankees. When it's Detroit Tigers, it's like whatever for me because, like you were saying, they're like the bottom of the league and overall in their record. Like I think the best thing they could do is just tank the rest of the season and hopefully get a high draft pick.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty much just like the Orioles, you know. Mm-hmm. And so like it's more of a bummer for the Yankees more than a hype for the Detroit Tigers because. Just like I was saying, Yankees, they need that record for home field advantage because the Astros are just right there neck and neck with them.
Here's Jordy Mercer.
To right center. That's going to get up the gap. He's done it again. And the Tigers walk off the big bad Yankees.
This is a game that's going to hurt the Yankees. When you're up 6-0 after 2 innings, you end up losing in the bottom of the ninth. That's going to sting a little.
Yeah. So. I'll let you introduce this next one here because obviously this hits a little bit at home to you.
Okay, so talking about the Dodgers. They clinched their 7th straight NL West title. Was I happy? Yes. Did I really care about it? No.
Someone's a little spoiled by the Dodgers.
Yeah, because it's not October. Yeah. You need those wins in October. You know, we've been to 2 back-to-back World Series and we haven't won it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure that 2017 season, they could have won it. They just didn't play the right baseball.
If it weren't for George Springer, you probably would have won it.
Dude, George Springer was just amazing that World Series.
And for the record, I actually, just because I always love to gloat about this because I feel great. He was doing terrible the entire postseason. I made predictions for the MVP before the series. I said, George Springer's going to have a great series right now, and he's going to win the World Series MVP, and he did. And I was like, wow. And that made me a George Springer fan.
The thing about George Springer is that he was a name that no one knew about or didn't even consider. Like, they were thinking about Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, Bregman when he was still pretty young, and Gurriel. Like, they were just saying, oh, they could be potential MVP players. But all of a sudden, their center fielder, George Springer, comes out, throws bombs, hits bombs every other day. You know, like, man, who is this guy? You know? Yeah. So the thing about George Springer is that he's just amazing. But going back to the Dodgers, been back-to-back World Series, no wins. Last year, I saw it coming. They're not beating the Red Sox after how good they were. Everyone knew that. And last year, even though they went to the World Series, they had a horrible year, in my opinion. They just weren't playing the right baseball after 2017. But they got to win. Hopefully, it's third time's a charm. I'm really pulling for that quote or that saying because I'm tired of not being able to see a ring. I haven't seen them win since I've been alive. You know, I've seen them play the World Series, but you want them to win a ring because they haven't won it in 30 plus years. 31, I think it's 31. Yes, it's
really?
31.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
The last one
are a little longer than that, but that's a long time.
The last one was 1988 when they won it.
Oh yeah, they beat the Mets that World Series.
So no, it was the Oakland A's.
Oh, that's right. They beat the Mets in the postseason to make it to the World Series.
They beat the Oakland A's.
Sure, they were never in the American League. What am I thinking of?
So it just sucks as like I was born in 98. Obviously, for this 10 years, I was in there. But growing up, being a Dodger fan, seeing them like when Manny Machado was there. Manny Machado was there. Manny Ramirez. I was a big J.D. Drew fan when I was growing up because that was the first player that was introduced to me as a baseball player. Jeff Kent, Clayton Kershaw, Eric Gagne. All these great players coming into the organization, and they're still not able to win a World Series with all the talent that has been through the system, especially at this point. Like, they've been able to have one of the best lineups without any big names besides Cody Bellinger and in the rotations when you have Clayton Kershaw.
And when you had Greinke and Kershaw, it seemed like a thing. But the Mets were able to beat them that one year when everyone thought they were going to get it.
Exactly. So just seeing all the talent, there's just something that is not clicking when it comes to October. Right. You know, and they were saying Clayton Kershaw is not good in the postseason. Okay,
he's got better numbers than a lot of people.
Exactly. So if he doesn't do great, then so be it. At least the team is in the postseason. Right. You're a guy that like you're team is the bottom of the league, and you're complaining about Clayton Kershaw. You know, like if your team is like above us and wins it, okay, I'll give you that. But if it's a team that is not in contention for a World Series, like bro, he's pitching in the World Series, and your team hasn't done nothing in the past 20 years. You know,
that's a fact. Yeah, I mean, and I understand. Like, look, I'm looking from a Mets perspective and from an outside baseball perspective. Obviously, you're looking at it as a Dodger fan. You're saying, we can win it, but for me as a Mets fan, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, the Dodgers have a great team. I just don't know how anyone's going to beat the Astros. I don't think anybody's going to be able to beat the Astros this year, which would be another disappointing thing because it means that they lost to the Astros 2 times out of 3 in 3 years in the World Series. But, I mean, you look at the Astros. You're going to have Zach Greinke returning to Dodger Stadium in the postseason. Justin Verlander, who's going to win the Cy Young this year. Garrett Cole, who's going to be second in the Cy Young this year. They have a great bullpen. The Dodgers bullpen's okay. Kenley Jansen, you're lucky that he pitched so well against the Mets. Maybe it's a turning point, but Cody Bellinger's been horrible. He carried them the first half of the season. He got the most of their wins. And look, they're going to win it. You've got Gavin Lux, guy's great. Matt Beatty, he's got potential to be a good player. They've got the bright future aspect of it. I just don't think right now is going to be the time. They're one of those teams where they have the opportunity and they have the potential in the future. I don't know how. I mean, look, they're also playing in a really bad division. I know that really doesn't matter because they beat good teams. But when you're playing a Coors Field like 15, 20 times a year, there's a good chance you're going to win most of those games. And, I feel bad for Dodgers fans, because they have such a great team and you feel like it's just, you're so close. And it's like, as a Mets fan, I started to dislike the Dodgers after Chase Utley, but I obviously can't hate the Dodgers because of one terrible person who really is just a horrible human being. I'm sorry. I have to say, he's a terrible human being.
Who slides pretty weird.
Or maybe tackles pretty weird, but it's okay. But, that's just one player. I can't hate the Dodgers for that. They're a good team. And I've been, over the last 2 years, I've tried to eliminate bias from my looking at baseball because, I've started to do baseball stuff and I can't look at it saying, I hate the Dodgers because of Chase Utley and, I hate the Nationals because they're in the NL East and, boo Nationals. I can't do that, I have to look at it from a baseball perspective saying, yeah, I'm a Mets fan, but I look at it realistically. The Dodgers have a really good chance this year, and I think it's going to be close. I really do. I think if the Astros maybe just don't click in the postseason like they have, then maybe they won't get it. But the Dodgers also have to go through the Braves, who have an amazing offense. They're going to have to go through whoever wins the wild card. They're also maybe going to have to go through the Cardinals. It's going to be a great postseason.
Yeah, the thing is that us as broadcasters or analysts, what you want to call us, that the thing is that you got to recognize talent where there is talent.
Right.
So me as a Dodger fan, yes, I'm going to support them, but at the same time, I got to recognize that the Astros are just a really good baseball team.
Yeah.
I said it last year when I saw the Dodgers go against the Red Sox. Red Sox are going to beat us. I'm pretty sure because just the way that they were all hitting the ball. And when it's the Astros today, man, starting rotation, on point.
Yeah.
Bullpen, on point. Starting lineup on point. Bregman has been having a good year. Correa has been up in the air. Altuve, he's consistent every year. And George Springer, you never know he's going to take off and be that.
And you've got Yuli Gurriel, who's been playing well. Yordan Alvarez too.
So that's the thing about the Astros, that they're just a well-organized team. I think the thing about Dodgers is that they have a history of having really good young players come up and contributing. Like this year, they had back-to-back home runs off rookies. When it was Will Smith, Matt Beatty, and Alex Verdugo. So those are something really positive that Dodgers come out of, because I was like five or six rookies that came out through the system and contributed to the major league team. That's Matt Beatty, Gavin Lux, Will Smith, Alex Verdugo. And I think there's another one. I forgot his name. I'm just trying to do it by memory. But anyways, just how those young players are able to come into the team and contribute in one way or the other can give that morale booster, confidence booster, is something really, really good for the team. And hopefully it's what they need to finally get the ring to LA.
Yeah. And you look at this guy, they have such a bright future. It's a great team. And best of luck to you guys, obviously. I hope that the best happens for you, but it's going to be tough.
It is going to be tough. Like we were saying, the AL is packed. You have either the Astros and the Yankees are going to be in the conference series. I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah.
So whoever comes out of that series is going to be a tough competitor for whoever the Dodgers are going to be playing, because you never know if they're actually going to make it to the NLCS, because you have the Cardinals coming in. If they end up being a great team in the postseason, you can't get past the Braves. You never know as well. So regardless, whoever we would face in the World Series, if we get there, is going to be a tough competitor, because the Astros are good, and the Yankees, even though they've been through injuries a lot this season, they can still play really good baseball.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously as a Mets fan, I hate the Yankees, and so do you. Yeah. But I mean, for me, I don't see the Yankees making it out of the first round. I mean, I think they would have to. They go against the Twins. The Twins have an amazing offense, and the Yankees have a subpar pitching staff. I think the Twins are going to beat them right away.
I see that happening.
Which I would love. I mean, that would make me the happiest person alive to watch the Yankees get knocked out round one again. Mm-hmm. You know, I haven't personally witnessed the Yankees win a World Series as a Mets fan. They won it before I actually started watching baseball in 2008, 2009, whenever. But, I mean, it's just Dodgers talk, obviously great to talk about. But
you know, something I forgot to mention about the rookies is that it's not just offense, it's also pitching.
Yeah.
Because I got the players right here. Alex Verdugo, who is out for injury right now, maybe will come back for October, hopefully. Or just
he was playing really well.
Yeah. You have Matt Beatty, who is like utility person, kind of like Kiki Hernandez, who can play anywhere that you need him. Will Smith, just a gem that came out of nowhere, you know. Kyle Garlick, he's been in the minors for a couple of years now. And also you have Edwin Rios, who's a third baseman or first baseman for Oklahoma City. I think that's who it is. But I'm just saying this position. But he's doing okay ever since he came up to the league. But also Dustin May, the ginger guard or ginger guards, and also what's his name? Tony Gosselin as well.
Oh, yeah.
So just how these young players are able to come up to the major league level and play Major League Baseball. So that's something that I think it's really, really important for them.
Yeah, I agree. So next up here, we're going to have the Philadelphia Phillies, Scott Kingery. He is a utility player for them as well. He had an inside-the-park home run it looked like it would be a home run. Mm-hmm. It went into Ronald Acuña's glove, and he flung it out when he landed on the ground. Acuña was celebrating while the ball was on the ground, which was even funnier. Kingery ended up scoring. It was an inside-the-park home run, which was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
But for the Phillies, an important game for them. Obviously, I don't want to waste too much time on stuff, but just an important game for them, and huge for them to get little moments like that, you know, beating the Braves, getting those kinds of things in there. Obviously, a really cool thing for them.
I think one word I put for Acuña, with all respect to Ronald Acuña and everything he's doing, he's chasing 40 for 40. Kind of a moron for that thing, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, Cespedes had something like that in spring training a few years ago where, I mean, there was a ball that rolled under the fence and he just put his hands up and the umpire went out there and was just like...
It's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there.
You know, but I mean, that was at least in spring training. You can't really be doing that down the stretch. But I mean, I think Acuña's got a big head on his shoulders, sometimes a little bigger than it should be. But I mean, it's just that can't really happen.
Just the fact that he was complaining that it was in his glove, I was like, okay...
But you still got to throw the ball.
You got to throw the ball regardless. You just if it was not, still the guy's still running. Throw in the ball, and
even if you get him out, then if you got him out, then wow, we got an out of that still, which is great.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's just that can't happen. The next thing here, we have the Astros that I mentioned in the last podcast were on fire. They got beaten by the Athletics 21-7 in a routing. The Athletics absolutely dominated them, which was really a surprise considering the Astros offense. But I mean, I don't remember the exact number, but I think after that game, the Astros had still outscored their opponents like 45-23 in their last three games after losing 21-7. So that was a crazy thing there for the Athletics.
Something for that is that I put here for the Astros not to worry about, because they got a tremendous record, like we were saying earlier, but it's a very uplifting for the Oakland A's. Yeah. Because there's one game ahead. They're in the first wild card spot. Mm-hmm. So being a team like that, like the Houston Astros that we've been saying have been playing phenomenal baseball throughout the course of the year, and you scored 21 runs against them, that is a big morale booster for your team going into the wild card. If they keep playing the way they're doing, they're going to get the wild card spot, and they can reflect on that game like, hey, we beat the Astros 21-7. we could make it far in the postseason,
Yeah.
be a true underdog for this upcoming postseason, and make a case for ourselves, and hopefully, in their case, of course, to make it to the World Series and win a championship.
Right. And I said last year when the Athletics were playing, I mean, the Athletics somehow, they come from the dead in September where they just go on tears where you don't think they're in it. And then they're just like, hi, we're here. But I mean, the Athletics last year, I said going into the postseason, if they beat the Yankees, they could have been an underdog to win the World Series because of their offense.
Yeah.
But this year, they've also shored up their pitching. They've got a little bit of a better pitching staff. Liam Hendricks has been great out of the bullpen, even though he blew a save yesterday or 2 days ago. But it's great for them. They're a great team. And I really like the Athletics. The Athletics are one of those teams where like you really can't hate them.
Yeah, I was also going to say, like, the A's is not a team that I'm like, oh, I hate them. They're a team in there.
Right, like the Dodgers are an easily hateable team. The Yankees are an easily hateable team. The Red Sox are. But like you've got like teams like the Athletics, the Brewers. You can't really there's like no reason to really hate them, you know? I mean, the Brewers a little less, but I mean, like they're the A's. Like they're wearing a green uniform, you know, like they're rocking out with their young players. It's cool.
Yeah, well, like when a team that's easily hateable, in my opinion, is the Giants, because obviously they're a division rival, but like the team, the Padres, I don't hate the Padres, you know, because they're close to home. Like I think the Padres are a team that you just don't hate or like you just feel bad for, you know.
Yeah.
But like the Padres, like I'm not a big Padre hater because I'm a big fan of their stadium and like they have gorgeous weather when I go watch a game.
This is true.
I had the opportunity to go call a game at Petco Park, so just the fact the Padres, everything I've experienced with them, it's impossible for me to not hate them.
Yeah.
I mean, for me to hate them, excuse me.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not hate. Wow, we're both messing up words.
Yeah.
I mean, Mets fans hate Chris Paddock, but I love the guy. He's my favorite pitcher in baseball. He's a great young player. The Padres have a bright future. We'll talk about the Padres in a minute. But continuing with the NL West here, we have the Rockies. Their third baseman, obviously Nolan Arenado, hit a 482-foot home run. I don't know if you've seen the video, but that ball was crushed.
That thing was long gone.
One hopped out of the stadium.
Yeah.
Obviously, Coors Field, you're going to see that a couple times a year. But, I mean, like, I don't care. Every time I see it, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I get it. I mean, I've always wondered, like, why is it because of the higher elevation the ball flies higher? And I thought, well, like, I mean, if you're on the moon and you hit a baseball, the ball's just never going to stop. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense if you're at a higher elevation, the ball is going to have a little less of oxygen or gravity to deal with. But I mean, it was a bomb. Nolan Arenado's just he's a monster.
The thing I would say about Nolan, and I put here on my notes, is that he might not be a rookie in a couple years, or I recommend that he needs to leave Colorado pretty soon. And yes, he got a contract extension, great for him, but he needs to go somewhere else because Colorado, in my opinion, they're not the team that was like 2 years ago that played the wild card spot against the Diamondbacks. They're not the same team. They've just been deteriorating ever since. He needs to go somewhere else to go win a championship.
And they beat the Cubs last year in the they lost to the Cubs in the tiebreaker for the division, which I think that was just a killer blow for them. And I think that may be why they're just not doing well. I mean, their pitching staff, because the Mets are playing them right now, I looked at their pitching staff and like the best ERA of all their pitchers is like 6. So I mean, that can't happen.
That can't happen at all. And just the fact that Nolan Arenado is every year a case for an MVP because of what he does. He's a phenomenal third baseman, hot corner, genius. He needs to get out of Colorado and go somewhere else to find a ring.
Yeah, it's a lot like Mike Trout.
Yeah, exactly.
And then back to the San Diego Padres, they wanted a walk-off walk by Manuel Margot. Obviously not huge news, but anytime you see a walk-off walk, it's like, you're just a horrible pitcher.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it happens. It's happened before. I mean, I've seen the Mets walked off on a walk-off walk last week with Pete Alonso, but I mean, the Padres have a really bright future. I mean, I was just talking about them. They have I see in the next 5 years, the Padres making it to the World Series. Maybe not winning it, but with Tatis and Paddock, they just have to shore up their bullpen. I mean, Luis Urias was their number one prospect, and the guy has been awful.
Yeah.
Like, he's got like a 180 batting average. And I mean, I can't even like begin to imagine like how the heck did they ever how did they get all these prospects? I mean, they're so good and they look great. I mean, they're great players. Paddock, the fierceness that he plays with is just amazing. But I mean, that's just my little Padres talk.
The thing about the Padres is that for this season, they still worth talking about. Are they? Because I've been so disappointed about the Padres this year. It's just ridiculous because you go out, sign the guy for $300 million.
Yeah, right. I forgot about Manny Machado.
He doesn't make the All-Star team, bro.
Yeah,
he doesn't make it. And also,
and neither did Harper.
It's not like you don't have a good lineup. You have Eric Hosmer over at first base. You got Fernando Tatis Jr., who's had a great season, and also you have Ian Kinsler at second base.
Yeah, he's been hurt a lot.
Yeah, but still, like, just the fact that you have talent on your team and you still can't capitalize.
Yeah, the fact that they're not even close to 500 is so scary.
It's so disappointing and heartbreaking for Padre fans because I have a friend who's a very diehard Padre fan, and even though they're like under Super 500, he still roots like if they're gonna win the World Series. Right. Like it just sucks how these Padre fans can't get a break. They can't get a good playoff run or even a good division run to compete against the Dodgers for a division title, So it sucks for the Padres. And the thing that they can do right now, like you were saying, focus on their future. But the thing is, they've been focused on the future for the past almost 10 years.
Yeah.
They just can't find the rhythm, the right set piece, maybe the right manager to lead them to where they're supposed to be. And hopefully, Green is out this year. Hopefully, because he has talent, but he can't get them together to work together.
Yeah.
So Padres need to get rid of their manager, find someone else better that really knows how to manage a team, and make something happen of themselves in the next couple of years.
Well, I wouldn't advocate this for getting a better manager, but I mean, the Mets are going to be firing Mickey Callaway at the end of the year, and you maybe wonder maybe they can take him because I've been saying all year, Mickey Callaway's a horrible manager now, but he's got the potential. I mean, it's his first few years. Unless you're a guy like Craig Counsell who played and then comes up, I mean, some players are just born with it. Some people are born with the fact that, I mean, man, we're good. We can manage a team. But, I mean, Mickey Callaway is just not at the level of manager that you want for a baseball team. But I feel like he would be good for a team that's not ready yet, a team that's maybe growing, that he needs to learn with the team. Like maybe we're going to figure it out together, But that's just, I mean, for the Padres, good base, good team, just not right now.
Yeah.
Chance to win it here for the Padres. 3-0 pitch. That is ball 4 and a walk-off win for the Padres on a walk with the bases loaded. Margot get an RBI.
What an awful way to lose.
So then we move on to Wednesday, September 11th. Going to kick it off with my faithful Mets. The Mets got 2 homer games from both Todd Frazier and Jeff McNeil, but the bigger part of this game was that they scored 9 runs on 11 hits on 9/11, which was, when I saw that line after the game, it made me feel, obviously, that hasn't held true to this point, but I was like, man, maybe someone up there is pulling for us. I mean, to get 9 runs on 11 hits on 9/11 in New York felt so special, and it was like, wow, maybe this is our year. No.
I think it connects to the situation that happened earlier this year, unfortunately, with the passing of Tyler Skaggs.
Yeah.
Kind of when the Angels came out, just the coincidence of like the runs they were scoring and all that kind of stuff was connected to Tyler Skaggs, you know? And like even 9/11, which we all know was just a horrible, ugly day for U.S. history in general after those Twin Tower attacks. And I guess you could kind of connect it to that first game that happened. Well, the first game in MLB after the attacks was between the Mets and the Braves.
Mm-hmm.
So
Piazza.
They could be reflecting on like the environment back then, even though there's no players on that team currently playing for the Mets. Just seeing like the environment that was back then, the significance of the game after those attacks, and now today, just a couple of days ago, 9 runs on 11 hits. That's something very, very special and emotional for a lot of people in New York. Without a doubt.
Exactly. So then we move over to the last bit of highlights. Only 2 highlights for Wednesday, September 11th. Mike Moustakas hitting 2 home runs on his birthday. I mean, that's quite on a more positive note. I mean, happy birthday, Mike Moustakas. I mean, you just cranked 2 home runs. I don't really love Mike Moustakas because of the World Series in 2015, but I mean, as a player and as a person, I mean, that's got to feel great. You're going out there, it's your birthday, you're hyped up, and then you hit 2 home runs. You're like, oh yeah, especially an important game.
It sucks. The thing about Mike Moustakas is that he's been a guy that has been so underrated the past couple of years that the guy can hit. He can play defense too. For a big guy, he can move down the line and get ground balls and throw them over to first across the diamond like any other third baseman can do.
Right.
So that's the thing that sucks about Mike is that he's been so underrated. He's been underpaid because I do think that he's a top caliber third baseman team. Best third baseman in the game? Obviously not. but he can definitely make a case to be like the top.
Yeah, like top 5, top 10.
Top 5, top 10, So that's the thing that sucks about Mike. Been underrated for the past couple of years. He's a phenomenal player. He has a lot of power. He's a big guy that's making a lot of things that other third basemen who are considered like slim or fit are doing, and he can do them as well.
Right. So let's move over to Thursday on September 12th. The New York Mets back with the Mets. They hit 6 home runs as they complete a 4-game sweep of the Diamondbacks with Juan Lagares hitting 2 home runs in that game. That was quite the cool game for the Mets, completing a 4-game sweep against the D-backs who were ahead of them in the wild card standings, practically knocked them out. Obviously, for some of you Arizona listeners of Blaze Radio, you may not be so happy about that. But for me, it was a great time, even though after that, obviously, the Mets have just fallen off. But huge game, huge sweep. I mean, all around, the Mets just playing a huge series there. 6 home runs in a game doesn't happen very often. Mm-hmm. And to do it against a competitor to complete a 4-game sweep, 4-game sweeps just feel special. You won 4 games. 3-game sweeps are a little different, but to win that extra game, it's a little special. Because if you think about it, 4-game sweeps could happen only in playoff games in the championship series and World Series. So to be able to complete a 4-game sweep, it's like, man, if we play these guys in the postseason, we can kill them. So it's one of those fun little things.
I think that it's just the level of what it means to be in a 3-game series and a 4-game series. That if it's a 3-game, you either win or lose no matter what. If you're in a 4-game series, you win, you lose, or you tie.
Yeah.
So that's like 3 things you can get out of it, the outcome. But if you win that series, it gives you a big confidence booster because you didn't lose or you tied. You actually won 4 games against an opponent. And the thing about this series specifically is that was the dagger for the D-backs to not make it into the playoffs. Right. Yes, mathematically they can still make it, but the fact is that there's 3 other teams fighting for the spot.
And they're 5.5 out.
Exactly. So the thing is that D-backs are done. Mets, they can make a case if they're able to play some baseball. They got to get over the Cubs.
I mean, they're 5 games back too.
So mathematically, it's possible. Realistically, no, but you never know.
Yeah. So.
Nice. 3-2 coming. And Lagares rockets one out to left field. Back goes Rojas at the wall. It's out of here! First career grand slam for Juan Lagares. And the Mets bring the.
Then we move on to the next highlight from Thursday, the last highlight for this day. Yu Darvish struck out 14 batters in 6 innings. And what that means is that if he stayed in, obviously he had like 90 pitches, but if he stayed in for the rest of that game with 3 innings left to play, he could have possibly struck out. I did the math. It was 21 batters. Wait, no, that's wrong. I'm stupid. 23 batters, which means that if he struck out 7 out of the last 9 guys, he would have broken the record, which that doesn't happen very often. Striking out 14 and 16 in 6 innings, I read that and I was like, wow, that blew my mind. And I was so amazed by that. But I mean, good for you, Darvish, after having a really rough year so far this year. He had a terrible season until he played the Mets, obviously. He played the Mets, pitched a gem, and since then he's been great. But I've always liked you, Darvish, but I mean, this was something special.
As a Dodger fan, Yu Darvish's name.
Oh, that's right.
Is like something we would say in Harry Potter. The guy that you don't say his name about when you talk about Lord Voldemort. Yeah.
I never watched Harry Potter, but I understand.
Okay, so that reference is
it's like he who shall not be named.
Exactly. That's what I was going. He who should not be named. And that's Yu Darvish. After 2017, obviously.
That's true. I completely forgot about that.
He didn't throw 2 good games of the World Series. And after the series, after the season, signs with the Chicago Cubs and says he wants to face them in the playoffs. I was like, yeah.
It's like, man, you're not nice.
Exactly. And even when the Dodgers got Yu Darvish in the trade deadline, I wasn't so happy about it because I saw, guys, Justin Verlander is still available.
Yeah, that was really bad.
I was like, I'd rather get either Justin Verlander or Sonny Gray. That was me back then.
That wins the World Series too because it takes Verlander away from the Astros.
So I was like, man, if we get Justin Verlander or Sonny Gray, I'd be so happy. Yu Darvish, I'm like, because the thing about Justin Verlander, he's been a phenomenal pitcher all his career. Unfortunately, he's been the Detroit Tigers for the majority, and a couple of years they've been so horrible. His numbers reflect on it. And Sonny Gray, I do think that if he would have been with the Dodgers, maybe Rick Honeycutt could have coached him up and make him a better pitcher. So we got Yu Darvish. We saw what happened. So Yu Darvish, not a guy I would like to be naming very often.
Then move over to Friday, September 13th. We're going to start off with Bo Bichette walking off against the New York Yankees after the butterfly lands on Zach Britton's glove. Obviously, a really cool thing for him. I mean, you've got to believe Bo Bichette, first walk-off in his career. I mean, that's pretty cool, but I think that the cooler part about this game was Zach Britton with the butterfly that landed on his glove. I mean, he was about to pitch, it lands right on his glove. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, you see the video on the screen, but I mean, that was like, that doesn't happen very often. That was like a Randy Johnson bird kind of situation.
Yeah, basically. And the thing I could say about Bichette's walk-off, so...
Well,
they're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
you know?
it's cool for a guy like that. I mean, first walk-off in your career for anybody.
Not to bash him out. Like, I respect the guy. Like, when I was at Dodger Stadium, when I was shadowing my mentor, he went yard 2 times against Clayton Kershaw.
Wow.
I respect the guy. But the fact is that there's nothing else you can celebrate.
Yeah, that's true.
You can't celebrate a run.
But they beat the Yankees.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. You're playing a little bit of spoiler, especially in division.
It made it more complicated for the Yankees to get that best record at MLB. But besides that, we said it before, Blue Jays, not a big team we're looking to. So that's why I say so.
Yeah.
Good for him. Good for the rest of the league. No, because they're not contending.
Right.
Yeah.
Then we're going to move on to Saturday, September 14th. I was going to talk about the first Mets versus Dodgers game, but I mean, it wasn't really that important. So we're going to start off with the Mets versus Dodgers game 2 here. Really, the only thing I want to talk about was Rajay Davis with this go-ahead 3-run double. Huge hit for him. The biggest hit of the year, probably the second biggest hit of his career. A great game for the Mets. Obviously, being able to take 1 out of 3 against the Dodgers is huge, and that's what they were able to do with this game, getting their first win. They were splitting the series at the time in a pitcher's duel between DeGrom and Hyunjin Ryu, which is it was just an amazing battle. They ended up going on that Davis was able to get that huge hit. It was a big game. It was a big game for the Mets. It ended up not really leading to anything, but still a huge game for the Mets. I mean, obviously being a Dodgers fan, that's got to hurt. But I mean, you guys, it doesn't really make a difference. You're still killing everybody else.
Yeah, well, honestly, the only thing is that we're looking for that record to help us in the
exactly
in postseason for NL competition. But the thing is that it's like you were saying, not a big impact for the Dodgers. Yes, we're hoping that it would have been a clean sweep because in the early part of the season, we struggled with the Mets a little bit, but still, like, we got our division title. We're going to make the playoffs regardless. We just need to make sure that our rotation and our bullpen is able to be in the place that they're at, especially with Kenley Jansen, because they know that they need him in the postseason. So yeah. I think that's the only thing that I could look out of it, that hopefully the bullpen was able to get some reps in, get some rhythm going for the postseason. But besides that, if we lose a game against the Mets, it doesn't bother me because you guys need it more than we do.
Right, exactly.
Knows about drama will be the batter here.
1-2 coming.
Change up, line drive, base hit, and the Mets take the lead. Haggerty is in. Here comes Nimmo. It goes to the wall. Rosario will score. A 3-run double for Rajay Davis. Big hit for the 38-year-old from Connecticut. And he breaks the ice in the 8th. It's 3-0 New York.
And we move over to the Minnesota Twins. This was a huge game between the Twins and the Indians, 2 teams fighting for the American League Central. Miguel Sano hitting a go-ahead grand slam in the second game of the doubleheader. It ended up leading to a sweep of a doubleheader against the Indians, which really padded the Twins' lead in that division. I mean, imagine that doesn't happen. The Indians could find themselves right back in it right now, but that really knocked them down, and it even knocked them down a little bit in the wild card race. But Miguel Sano, probably the biggest home run of his career, a monster grand slam over the big wall in left field in Progressive Field. A huge hit for him and for the Twins.
Yeah, the Twins all year, they've been just crushing the ball all year. They broke the record for team home runs. When was it? In August, was it? Or
yeah, I think it was. I believe it was like mid-August.
It was something like that. And you still had a month or 2 left of baseball. Yeah. You know, so the thing is that the Twins are just been playing phenomenal baseball, crushing the ball all the time, and it sucks for the Indians because they got to face them whenever they have to do it. So to make a push for the wild card or the division, because the Twins, their firepower is just not to mess around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Batter all tied 5-5. Polanco at third, Cruz at second, Rosario at first, one out.
A drive to left field and deep. A grand slam for Miguel Sano. Oh my! And an eighth-inning ambush here in Cleveland. His first career grand slam.
Then we move over to Charlie Culberson. I don't know if you saw this, but I was actually watching the game live because it was a huge game for the Mets. It was the Braves and the Nationals, and the Nationals needed to win this game. They were playing the Braves. I mean, I mentioned it. They have a really hard schedule. It's going to be hard for them to come back. But Charlie Culberson, I was watching the game. I knew I had to leave in like 10 minutes to go do something. And he came up to bat. He squared up the bunt. Ball hit him right in the face. I was like, oh my God. And I'm sitting there watching, like, of all the games that I picked to watch and of all the times, it just boom, right in the face. I was like, wow. And it was so sad. I mean, I sat there. I couldn't close my mouth for like 5 minutes. And thankfully, he got up. He was able to be carted off the field. He gave thumbs up to Fernando Rodney, who ended up giving 5 runs up in the inning. And he said after the game, he said, after that, I mean, I didn't want to pitch. I don't want to pitch anymore after that. But they left me in and I had to try. He said, but I couldn't. I didn't have the right mindset. And you know, you've got to understand that. You almost just took somebody's life. Yeah. I mean, if that ball was a little bit higher, you may have cracked his skull. Mm-hmm. So you've got to feel, I mean, Charlie Culberson, the Braves players, and even Brian Snitker, their manager, were almost in tears when talking about it because of how important Charlie Culberson is, not only to the team, but in the clubhouse. He's just a great clubhouse face.
Yeah. Being a guy, Charlie, who was a big Dodger guy before he went.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I remember Vin's last call, Vin Scully, one of in my opinion, the greatest broadcaster of all time. His last call at Dodger Stadium was a walk-off by Charlie Culberson.
Oh, that's right.
To clinch the NL West,
division.
To clinch the division. So that guy has his name is never going to be forgotten, in my opinion, because of that call with Vin Scully clinching the division is just phenomenal. At his last game at Dodgers.
And I think, wasn't that, I for some reason, I think it was like a grand slam too.
No, it wasn't a grand slam. I
remember he's had, like, I don't remember, was it, maybe it was Trace Thompson on the walk-off grand slam at one point for them. But I mean, Charlie Culberson is a great player, great name. And I feel bad for the guy. He broke multiple bones in his face, and you have to just wonder. I mean, it was hard to watch. I mean, I know you're watching him right now, but I mean, it was very difficult to watch for me as a baseball fan, and I think for anybody else. I mean, it was brutal. So the next highlight here on this day, which is the second to last one, John Hicks, catcher for the Detroit Tigers. He hit a walk-off grand slam in the bottom of the 12th in a battle of the two horrible teams in baseball. The Orioles, who have the second worst record in baseball, taking on the Tigers, who have the worst record in baseball, who both having horrible seasons. It's actually kind of fun. It's almost like watching two competitors go head-to-head because it's like, man, we've got two terrible teams. It's actually kind of funny. It's like, who's the worst? I mean, technically it's the Orioles, but I mean, the Tigers have the worst record. But I mean, a walk-off grand slam is cool for anybody, and in such a dismal season. I mean, as a Tigers fan, it's got to be a little bit, just like a wee bit of excitement.
Yeah, I think it's pointless for the Tigers to be celebrating that because, like we were saying earlier, if they get a bigger, higher draft pick, they'll be awesome. They just keep tanking the season. Yeah. So I don't know why they should be celebrating that. Yes, it's a grand slam, but just get the highest pick if you can.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when the Mets were doing so poorly in 2017, it was all about let's just do terrible and get a high draft pick, and that's what we were able to do.
Oh, Hicks at the plate.
Another 2 to left. There it is. John Hicks seizes the moment with a grand slam walk-off. John Hicks's second career walk-off hit. First time.
And then the last thing here, I don't know if you've seen the picture, but Mike Fiers and his absolutely hilarious mustache was probably the weirdest thing I have ever seen. People said that he lost a bet, but I don't know if that's what it was. I think it was just all about superstition. I think the guy he hasn't been pitching well, and he needs to pitch well down the stretch, and he was coming off one of the worst starts of his career. It's just, I mean, there's really nothing else to say other than it was just hilarious.
No, honestly, like when I saw this guy, I was watching the game at work, and I saw this guy, and I was like, I saw his beard, but then they changed the angle, and I was like, is that a different dude or something like that? I was like, what's going on here? And then I saw his face in front of it. I was like, dang, that's like a J across his face. I don't know, or G. I don't know what it is, but it looked weird. It kind of reminded me like, not the fact that it is Brian Wilson from the Giants and this big beard, but kind of like
just the idea of obscure beards.
Yeah, exactly. So it felt kind of weird and confusing, but hey.
Yeah, I don't know whether to call it a mustache or a beard. Like, it's like, which one is it?
Or like half a goatee or something? I don't know.
It's just like your facial hair. I guess we got to simplify.
Yeah.
Then we're going to move on to Sunday, September 15th. Ryan Braun with his huge go-ahead grand slam on a 3-2 pitch with 2 outs on the top of the ninth to make it 7-4 Brewers over the Cardinals. I was actually watching this game too because I really wanted the Cardinals to win, because if they did, then it would really hurt the Brewers' chances. But John Gant came into the game top of the ninth. He's been their most reliable reliever. He walked 3 batters. He walked the bases loaded. Ryan Braun comes up. They put in a rookie in his first season. I believe it's one of his first outings. He hung him a slider, 3-2 pitch. I mean, Braun crushed it.
Yeah, the thing about Ryan Braun, I think it was good for him, this point of the season for him, hitting this home run, the grand slam, excuse me, because before Christian Yelich came to the Brewers, it was Ryan Braun's team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when Yelich came into town, it was Yelich's team. So I think losing Yelich for the rest of the season made him feel like, okay, I'm the man now. I can carry this team to where I want to. Yes, it got there, the center fielder Kane. Well, he's not the greatest
He hasn't really. He's been a
the leader, exactly. But just the fact that Ryan Braun has that history of leading the team to do something, and when he was an MVP a couple of years ago, when he was facing against Matt Kemp, I remember that. Him being able to go back to that time when he was so young and a great baseball player, even today he's a great baseball player, to be able to have that leadership role and that mentality is something very crucial for the Brewers going into this part of the season, that if they could get that wildcard spot, the second wildcard spot against the Cubs and beat them out of it, that'd be so good for them.
And if you also this reminds me a little bit of the Mets with Matt Harvey. I mean, 2015, Harvey's the best pitcher on the team, no question about it. And then Jacob deGrom and Noah Syndergaard start picking it up. He started pitching terribly. And, it gets in your head. If you're one of those guys, you're the head of the team. And then out of nowhere, somebody just comes and steals your thunder. And you're like, man, all right, I'm on the back burner now.
You got to respect him, though, because like Kyrie was saying that he had Christian Yelich's jersey under his. So I'm not saying like he's like, okay, I'm the man now. Right. Like I could be the leader, but still keep account of who is leading this team with me.
Yeah, and even no matter how humble you are, even if something like that happens, it still goes through your head. You're like, oh, wow, I'm actually like the head now. I'm like with Mike Trout. So that's that.
Going to be moving. Pitch to Braun. High drive. Deep left center field. Bader is back. Braun! A grand slam! And the Brewers have taken the lead in the ninth on a Ryan Braun slam.
But then the next thing here, the Cubs sweep the Pirates. In a 3-game series, they scored 47 runs. If you do the math, I'm going to try and do really quick math here in my head. That is like 15.6 runs per game. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is really ridiculous. And Cubs, they're finding the second wild card spot. They're the team that won in 2016. I don't know. Are they back at that caliber? I don't know. It's been in the season.
They're not at the World Series caliber that they were, but they're hitting really well at home.
But that's the thing, though. They haven't been doing it for the past couple of months of this season. But in this last push, the thing I say about baseball is that whoever is playing the best baseball going into the postseason,
they're going to be the leaders.
Exactly. They're going to win the World Series. You know, if the Cubs are able to maintain this level, they could definitely be a sleeper for a lot of people.
Yeah, but the only problem is, which has stayed true even through this great stretch, is the Cubs can't play on the road. They have the worst road record in baseball, and that sucks. They are way under 500 on the road. They just can't hit. Even they've had stretches where they'll score like a boatload of runs at home, go on the road and just not hit.
Yeah.
And Joe Madden even got to a point where he would hang the home jerseys in the road clubhouse to try and do something about it, but it didn't work. So the Cubs, I don't know if they have what it takes to win the World Series this year, but I think maybe winning the wild card could be in the cards.
They can make it complicated for other teams.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with their offense.
Yeah.
Only have a few left here. We go to Eugenio Suarez. He hit his 46th and 47th home runs right here in Arizona at Chase Field to tie Pete Alonso for the home run lead all in one game. They were two bombs, absolutely came out of nowhere. I said it on the podcast last week that Eugenio Suarez has just jumped into the home run race from nowhere. And the dude has just taken off. I mean, he has hit so many home runs and he's been so impressive.
The thing about Cincinnati is this is going to be their main highlight of their entire season.
Absolutely.
Besides getting Trevor Bauer.
And Luis Castillo's been pretty good too.
Exactly. And it sucks for the team that they say they can be pretty good in a couple of years. Hopefully they are, because the name Cincinnati has a lot of history in baseball. They have one of the best hitters in history with Joey Votto at first base. So this is the only major highlight, in my opinion, for their season. Like Suarez fighting, going neck to neck with Pete Alonso for the home run lead.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
And ever since he hit that 47th, I mean, both him and Alonso practically died. I mean, Alonso's before last night, he was 0 for his last 20, and Suarez hasn't hit a home run since. So very interesting. Then the next.
Come on, Cody.
Yeah, well, I mean, Cody Bellinger, you never know.
You never know.
Suarez.
Suarez straight away center field. This ball is hit well. This ball is high off the wall and gone over the yellow stripe. It's back-to-back jacks for the Reds.
It in.
Payoff pitch. Again in the air, left center field. Has he done it again? Goodbye! Suarez, 100 RBIs, and now he ties Andres Galarraga for.
But the next thing here, we're moving on to Monday, September 16th. There's really nothing to talk about here. It's just I want to have one highlight per day, which is why we're going to have the Royals scoring 2 in the 9th off of Liam Hendricks to win the game on the road. Liam Hendricks has been obviously the top-notch closer for the Athletics, and to score 2 runs off of him to win the game is pretty cool. But I mean, that can't happen. I mean, that you can't lose to the Royals, but. Yeah. It's not even important enough to talk about. I just wanted to have it in there. So we're going to skip over the batting and pitching leaders because there's really no real change in everything. It's just been Pete Alonso and Eugenio Suarez are at the top there for the home runs. Move over to the hitter and pitcher of the week, and then we're going to get into the team of the week. We're gonna try and kind of speed run here because I know we're really, really deep into this podcast. But hitter of the week for me,
that means a good thing, right?
Yeah, it is.
Have a longer episode than just like a 10-minute episode.
Absolutely, right? But I mean, there are going to be people who obviously aren't going to listen to the whole thing because who's going to? I mean, look, let's be real. Are you going to sit back and listen to an entire hour and a half long podcast if you just have stuff to do?
If it's me, possibly yes, because it makes me reflect on where I got to get better at my craft.
Well, no, I mean, I meant I didn't mean necessarily because you're on it. I meant just in general.
I know.
But
I know what you're saying. No,
but yeah, but
I guess you could go to all those people that watch 3-hour shows of talk shows.
True.
You know,
that's true. So you never know.
Like DP, he does his 3-hour show.
Right.
First take is 2 hours.
Right.
You know, and we have no commercials.
That's true.
You know, so people can listen to it.
We're better than you, DP. But yeah, so we're going to go on a hitter of the week. For me, I had to pick the Cubs third baseman, Chris Bryant. In this last week, he's batting .480 with 5 home runs and 13 RBIs in a really not great season for the former MVP. He has come out this last week and he single-handedly carried the Cubs on his back. Thanks to Anthony Rizzo getting hurt now, it's really been put squarely on him to be such an important figure on the scene. But I mean, obviously the Cubs have with that offensive series against the Pirates, it's hard not to have such high numbers out of at least one player on your team. But I mean, Chris Bryant for me, just no brainer here.
Yeah, I could agree with Chris Bryant, but the fact that you were saying just how that series planned out, it was an easy given. But I'm going to go with Marcus Seaman from Oakland, the shortstop, because of the situation that he's in the Oakland A's, that they have to be playing consistently until the end of the season. He hit .486 in the past couple of games. He had 32 at-bats, 5 home runs, so he's doing his job at shortstop and at the plate. So I'm going to go with Marcus Seaman.
All right, that's a pretty good pick there. I've got him in my team of the week. But the pitcher of the week for me, I mean, I looked at this. I tried because I knew that Chris Bryant and this guy they were deemed by MLB the hitters and pitchers of the week. I tried not to go with that, but I mean, I looked for 5 minutes and I said, there's no way I can't pick Jose Barrios, the guy with a 1.26 ERA, a .7 whip in 14 2/3 innings with 12 strikeouts. I mean, there are a lot of guys who have higher or better numbers in other spots, but I mean, overall, I just think he's got the best numbers. And as the ace of the Twins, like you said, they're in such an important spot right now. To come up clutch like this in 2 straight starts is very important.
Yeah. My player is the one who should not be named. I said earlier. Well, I'm going to say it so people know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about you, Darvish.
I could have said it for you, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Can you say it for me?
Yeah, you, Darvish.
Yeah, okay. So he just threw 6 innings. Not a lot. But the fact he struck out 14 batters.
He struck out more batters in one start than Jose Barrios did in his 15 innings of work.
Exactly. So is that the Yu Darvish they knew before he had Tommy John surgery? Maybe. If it's good for the Cubs, for him to make a run in the postseason, awesome. But not everyone can strike out 14 batters.
Yeah, that's very hard. That's like Chris Sale territory.
And I think it was just one hit he allowed.
I don't remember. I don't know. I just know that he had a lot of pitches, which is why he came out. Yeah. So then we move over to the team of the week. Obviously going to go from catcher to closing pitcher. For me, my catcher is Sean Murphy, a rookie for the Oakland Athletics. This is his first year in the big leagues. He was a September call-up. And in his last week, he's batting .476 with 3 homers, 6 RBIs, and a .500 on-base percentage. So then in half of his at-bats, he has gotten on base.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one. Sean Murphy from Oakland, a call-up from nowhere. Contributing.
Yeah, I didn't even know that he was a September call-up until I looked up a picture for the video and I saw a September call-up. I was like, what? I mean, for a September call-up to be playing that well, where was he all year?
Yeah,
I mean, they could have won the division maybe if they had a guy like this playing every day.
It's like Will Smith with Dodgers. Right. He came out early in the season and he contributed, bro. So
yeah. So it's all about that. And I mean, bright future for the A's. I've got another athletic here. I've actually got 3 athletics here and 3 players from one city as well on my team. But we're going for the second athletic, Matt Olson. There's really not any great first baseman this week. I was really disappointed. But for me, I had to go for him because he was batting .276. But what really stood out to me are 5 homers and 12 RBIs. In 7 days, he hit 5 home runs. That's almost a home run a day. Very impressive numbers there.
I'm going to go with New York's first baseman, Luke Voit. He had .486. And that's something that kind of like Chris Bryant.
I think you're looking at his on base percentage over there.
Was it 4? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it is. Anyways, it's still phenomenal numbers.
Still pretty good.
It's still pretty good, you know. So I'm gonna go with Luke Voit.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty solid. I mean, overall, I picked more just because of Matt Olson, just with the home runs. But I mean, those are impressive numbers nonetheless. Then we move over to second baseman. We're getting a little bit out of obviously, like I said, we've got 3 players from the same team and 3 from the same city. We're getting a little bit out of that. Ozzie Albies from the Atlanta Braves, batting .423 with .448 as his on-base percentage with 2 homers and 5 RBIs in the last week. Out of second baseman, the reason why I picked him is just because of that batting average. I mean, to have a .423 batting average in a span is just... that's amazing. You don't bat .423. I mean, look, there are going to be guys on here that are a little higher, but I mean, for the Braves in such an important stretch, they're trying to win. I mean, he's been hitting really, really well lately.
So my pick for the second baseman player of the week, I guess you could say, is Yoan Moncada from Chicago White Sox. He hit for .500 in the past 7 days. So Yoan Moncada, I was a big fan of him when he came up and when he was with the Red Sox and when he got traded over to Chicago. Everyone was so hyped up about him. Just like it made me a fan about how he plays.
Yeah, I mean, he hadn't done very well at the big league level recently, but I had a feeling that this year was going to be a good year for him. I actually had him pinned to win the batting championship, which he's kind of close, even though his teammate Eloy Jimenez is giving him a bit of a better run. But I mean, just no question there that Yoan Moncada he's a great player. Then we move over to third base for me. I mean, I already mentioned his stats. Chris Bryant, when you're batting .480 with 5 homers and 13 RBIs in a week, really, I mean, obviously it would be kind of weird for me to not pick him for third baseman because he was my hitter of the week. So There you go.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one. Chris Bryant, I have him as well for third baseman of the week.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, when you have a week like that, it's going to be hard not to be recognized. And I'm going to go with your guy that you picked for hitter of the week, Marcus Semien for the Oakland Athletics, batting .438 with a .486 on-base percentage, 5 homers and 10 RBIs. Like I said with Matt Olson, 5 home runs in a week is quite impressive. With those numbers, I mean, if you put those up consistently for a guy like him who's been really flying under the radar over his entire career, he can maybe make himself a big name.
Yeah, and if he's my hitter of the week, why wouldn't I put him as my shortstop of the week? So
absolutely.
I'll go with him as well.
So nice to really get those quickly out of the way. Then we move over to the left fielder, Eloy Jimenez, the aforementioned Eloy Jimenez, batting .407 with 4 homers, 12 RBIs in the last week. Those are impressive numbers. I mean, he's having a great year. It's too bad Yordan Alvarez is having such a great year and that he was out for such a long time, Jimenez was, because he could very easily be the rookie of the year if he was playing all year long with these numbers. But, I mean, it's tough to argue that a guy like that couldn't be your left fielder of the week.
Yeah, the thing I got was Danny Santana. I don't know why, but just something about him like really impacted me. Like, even though he's with the Texas Rangers, he's still playing baseball. And
right.
He's contributing in some sort of way when
that's true.
Texas
Rangers
are not doing anything, you know.
Yeah, that's a good little note there. I like that. Mm-hmm. Then we move over to center fielder, and for me, another Chicago Cub, the third player from Chicago in this entire team of the week, rather, is Jason Hayward. I've got him. He batted .400 with a .539 on base percentage. I mean, how do you have that on base percentage in a matter of a week? I mean, that's impressive. 2 homers, 8 RBIs too, but that's not why I picked him. I mean, that on base percentage is very impressive.
Yeah, I have the same player for center field, Jason Hayward. I remember that everyone was making so much heat about him. They're like, man, he's getting paid so much and he's not contributing anything at all. They're the numbers for the past 7 days. Try to argue that.
I mean, look, you can't argue that since he's been signed. The guy's been horrible. But, I mean, he's having a good year this year. I saw him obviously get called up with the Braves and have a great start to his career with the Braves. But it's just, I don't know what happened with him. Ever since he went over to the Cubs, it's just, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just Chicago or something. But it's good to see him playing well. I mean, I've always liked his potential. Since he became a Cub, I haven't been able to like him. But he did really well this last week. The next guy on here, a former Cub. So, I mean, we're getting a lot of Cub references here. I mean, it's hard not to with the way they played in that Pirates series, but still, Jorge Soler, guy that you cannot forget about in the maybe even MVP race in the American League. If the Royals were doing better, you could really think about it. But he has been the bright spot in a terrible season. He's making a push for home run king. 4 homers in his last week with 7 RBIs. He batted .367, and for a home run hitter to bat .367, that's pretty impressive.
My pick is, I think it's kind of weird because this guy is also my third baseman, you know, because he played third baseman and right field.
That's true.
You know, so I would go with Chris Bryant as well. Obviously, you can't play him at the same time,
this
right?
Is true.
You know, but Chris Bryant as a right fielder, he did phenomenal as well, so I'm going to go with Chris Bryant.
That works. Then we're going to go over to starting pitcher. Obviously, there's really nothing to talk about here because we both picked our starting pitchers of the week. So we're not even going to mention them. Obviously, for me, it's going to be Barrios, and for you, it's going to be Yu Darvish. But then we move over to the
Thank you for saying it for me.
You're welcome. That's right. Didn't even that slipped my mind, but you're welcome. But we go over to reliever and closer of the week. These were the hardest things I've picked so far since doing team of the week for the last 3 weeks. No Ramirez is going to be my reliever of the week. Pitcher for the Angels. He's actually starting today, but he had a 0 ERA with a .5 whip with 4 strikeouts in 4 1/3 innings. You can't argue with that. When you have a 0 ERA in 4 1/3 innings, especially with a .5 whip, for a horrible Angels team, that could be a potential really good pitcher for you.
We're talking about how the Rockies are not a top caliber team, but I think Antonio Santanella had a really good week.
Yeah.
He in 12 innings, he had 9 Ks. ERA, not the prettiest, 3.75, but his whip is 1.25.
Well, he's also a starting pitcher, so you can't really...
Like, he still comes in and does stuff in the middle of the game, you know, so
right.
I think that's how we could argue that, his case, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, solid week for those guys. And then the closer of the week, this was probably the hardest because there was really no closer who did well this week. For me, I had to go with Jairo Diaz. He had a 0 ERA, but his whip is 1.4, which is not bad, but over the course of a week, it's not spectacular. But he had 4 strikeouts, 3 saves in 5 2/3 innings. He was on the Rockies too. So Rockies closer did pretty good. I mean, with the terrible closers that we have, there's really nothing to argue about there.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dakota Hudson from St. Louis Cardinals, pretty much. And he 13 and 1/3 of an inning, 8 Ks, 2.77 ERA, so I'm going with him. That's
pretty solid. So then we're going to move over here. I want to talk about division leaders, but because we've had a lot of time here that we've used up, I'm just going to talk about the wild card because the division leaders, everyone knows who's winning each division, but the wild card is what's really getting to everybody and is making a lot of people really open their eyes, mainly in that National League wild card. The National League wild card has been the most interesting, wow, I can't speak, interesting wild card that I think I've ever watched. They had at one point, until this week, 6 teams that were in the thick of it. Right now it's really down to 3, the Nationals, the Cubs, and the Brewers. But what's interesting for me is that the Nationals have the hardest record out of all the contending wild card teams in the National League. They have the most difficult record. They play a team that is contending for a wild card spot every single series but one for the rest of the year. The Cubs have the second easiest schedule for the rest of the year. They're a half a game behind the Nationals. And then the Brewers, who are a game behind the Cubs and a game and a half behind the Nationals, are now they statistically have the easiest schedule in baseball for the rest of the year. So if I'm a Nationals fan, I'm scared.
Yeah.
We're not playing well. The Cubs are red hot and the Brewers are red hot. I'm going to be doing this podcast a week from now. That's going to be towards the end of the season. The Nationals might be completely eliminated from competition at that point. I mean, it's amazing how much can change in a week. Last I was here, the Mets were 4 back. And 4 back a week ago is different, but now they're 5 back. 7 days have gone by. They've lost a game.
Yeah.
It's hard to do anything at this point with that. So are the Phillies. The Diamondbacks are 5.5 back. It's going to be hard for those teams to even make a push. Out of them all, the Mets have a schedule and a time in this season where it's possible because the Cubs play the Cardinals 7 times in this next few weeks. And the Mets have 9 games right now in a row against the Rockies, Reds, and Marlins. But it's hard. You can't really come back from being 5 games out with like 12 games left in the season. That means that you basically have to win every game and they would have to lose every game. And even if let's say the Cubs do get knocked out by the Cardinals, let's say the Cardinals win all 7, there's nothing saying, but then the Nationals probably still can hold on for maybe second and the Brewers can probably win. But the Brewers may even be able to have first place if that happens. I mean, it's going to be a crazy wild card for the National League.
Yeah, honestly, you got to acknowledge and accept that this is potentially the greatest wild card race we've seen in, I don't want to say like baseball history.
Maybe in our lifetime.
Yeah, in our lifetime. Because,
I mean, look, 2010 was crazy with that, with the Rays and everything, but that wasn't necessarily a wild card race. That was more of the AL East race.
Yeah, because in this time, you're saying 6. At one point, it was 7.
That's right, with the Giants.
And the Giants, they're completely done. But then I think
technically, mathematically, they
can still do it, but they're done. We all know that they're done. And the thing about, sadly for Arizona listeners, that they have the opportunity to get into the postseason when they would face the Mets.
And then the Mets came along.
Exactly. So it sucks for Arizona, and the Mets, they had their shot too. And going back to Arizona, they had the easiest schedule on paper compared to the other teams contending for the wild card spot. And when it comes to the Phillies, they need Bryce Harper so much now.
Well, I mean, he's been playing. He's been their best hitter in the last month and a half.
Yeah, he needs to be a big leader, get them running as soon as possible to make that last push. Because it sucks if they can't make the wild card spot after signing for $330 million.
I had them projected to win the division and not to make the wild card spot by how many games. I mean, that's crazy.
That would be such a failure for the team.
Yeah.
You know, because I think their rotation is like decent.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Look, I mean, as a Mets fan, I see it all the time. Their rotation's really horrible. The only good pitcher in there is Aaron Nola, and he's dominant, but their bullpen's just god-awful. Yeah. Their bullpen's probably one of the worst bullpens in the National League with David Robertson being hurt. They actually have the bullpen for the Phillies. Their 8 relievers right now, not a single one of them was on the opening day roster because everybody's gotten hurt.
I think the team that could really make a push and just slingshot themselves to the postseason is the Mets.
Right.
I think they got a really good lineup in the offensive side. Also, they got a great rotation in Marcus Stroman and Noah Syndergaard and Jacob deGrom. They have the players to make the run. They really do. And they're 5 games back. I'm not saying like they're completely out of the run, but they can make it happen. They just need a lot of luck on their side. You know?
And I mean, look, they have been called the Miracle Mets before. They have leapt over the Cubs before in postseason. And like I said, with the Cardinals playing the Cubs 7 times, if the Cardinals win those games and the Mets win 8 out of these next 9 against these bad teams, mathematically, that puts the Mets ahead of the Cubs.
Yeah.
So you never know. But it's going to come down to, can the Mets capitalize? Can they beat these bad teams like they got? I mean, I don't know if you knew, but the Mets were 11 under. They played the string of 10 terrible games in a row against horrible teams. They won all 10 of them. And that's what put them right back in it. So they've done it before. It's time to do it again. It's do or die right now. I think if they lose today and the Cubs win, this season's over. They're 5 games out. Having 5 games out right now, losing these games would be a heartbreaker.
I just know that last week of regular season play is going to be super interesting.
Yeah.
It's going to be really good.
It is. There's a lot of great games. And something we're going to talk about in a minute is the wild card. That's going to also be an interesting thing. I mean, the Cy Young. That's going to be very interesting. But the American League wild card is actually in a similar spot. There's 3 teams that are all within a span of 2.5 games of each other. If you look at the National League, they're a game and a half of each other, which is absolutely amazing. But the AL, they're 2.5 away, with the Oakland Athletics, Tampa Bay Rays, and Cleveland Indians, 3 teams that are not in the same division as each other. So they might not get the chance to play each other again. I haven't looked at their schedules, but the Athletics are holding on strong. I mean, look, that is an amazing wild card race in of itself because of how close they are with 3 teams. And we're not even focusing on that because of how great the National League has been.
I think it's amazing how a lot of these teams' records are not like horrible.
Yeah, not at all.
Because if you look at the record that the A's have, they're 90-61. If you're any other team, like their best overall record was 91 wins at some point. So
91-61 would put them 7 games ahead in the National League Central. Or 90-61. That would put them 9 games ahead in the Central, obviously not in the American League. But I mean, it's just like it's crazy to have 90 wins in a season and not even be in a divisional race. The Mets won in 2015 going 90-72.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would mean that the Athletics would have to lose their last 12 games, and that doesn't even guarantee them a postseason spot. So it's crazy. But I mean, look, the Athletics are a really good team. So are the Rays. But I mean, you got to feel for the Indians fans. This is the first time since the beginning of the year that they weren't in a postseason spot after being the division leaders for so long, losing that and now losing the wild card. I mean, since 2016, the Indians have just been really disappointing. I mean, I was pulling for them that World Series because I hate the Cubs, but that is just, it's been a really disappointing franchise.
They really have to be super disappointed in themselves after they decided to trade away Trevor Bauer.
Yeah, look, when that happened, that was the stupidest thing I think I've ever seen.
I think that's the stupidest mistake that happened this whole entire season.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a team that could really be a contender in the postseason. You trade away your best pitcher?
And they were winning the division at the time.
Exactly. You don't do that at all. Yes, you might have thrown that ball a long ways into center field, but as a manager,
maybe bench him a game.
Yeah, maybe just to discipline him. But you don't trade your best pitcher knowing that you're gonna maybe struggle to make it into the postseason in general.
Yeah,
you just don't do that.
At least they didn't trade him to a contender. That would have been even stupider.
Yeah, but, and with all due respect to the Indians, because I have ties to the Indians, because a friend back home, he's a pitching coordinator for the Indians.
That's cool.
That's good for. They got to fix their things. They got to fix it. So that's why I was saying respect to the Indians, but that was a big mistake they did.
Right. Yeah. And then as we approach the hour-and-a-half mark here on this podcast, we're going to talk about one final thing, and this is the Cy Young race in both leagues. Obviously, the National League is a lot closer to home for both of us than the American League is, but for you, you don't have anybody. Well, actually, you do. You have Hyunjin Ryu. So it's a lot closer to home for both of us than the American League. And I think it's safe to say right now, a recent poll came out. They did a poll that Justin Verlander's got. He had like 20 first-place votes, and Garrett Cole had 5. So I think it's safe to say that Verlander's going to get it. But I think Cole, I mean, honestly, he's having a great year. I mean, there's no question about it. Garrett Cole's been one of the best pitchers in baseball this year. Maybe if he's in the National League, he wins. There's no question about it. He would win. So you got to feel for Garrett Cole. I mean, just disappointing for him. So what is your take on the American League wild card?
The wild card of the Cy Young.
I mean, sorry, yeah, Cy Young. I said that before too. Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just I'm so thinking about the wild card as a Mets fan.
I do see Justin Verlander winning it because just of the fact he threw the no-hitter. and that's going to be a great stagger. And also at the point of the season that it happened, you know.
I was just going to say,
if it was in the earlier, then maybe they get off of it, they get off the train, and like, okay, Garrett Cole can make a case out of stuff. But the fact that it was in the latter half of the season is going to help Justin Verlander to win another Cy Young. So I'm going Verlander to win it.
Yeah, and then we move over to the National League side. They released a poll for the National League as well, and it turned out that Max Scherzer has 21 votes, and Jacob deGrom has, I believe, 17. I'm going to get the actual numbers for that right now. But they have Jacob deGrom behind Max Scherzer. Mm-hmm. First of all, he's got a better ERA, a better whip, more strikeouts. How could you not have him over Max Scherzer? They both did poor in the beginning of the season and were almost even eliminated. Here's the actual numbers. 23 first-place votes for Max Scherzer, 19 for Jacob deGrom. These last 3 starts are going to determine the Cy Young, maybe even 2. Max Scherzer, if any pitcher, if any one of these 2, let's say one has a bad start, gives up like 5 runs, and the other pitcher maybe throws 2 gems, that one pitcher is going to win. But Hyunjin Ryu ended up getting 0 first-place votes. So after this amazing season that he had, to have 0 first-place votes, I mean, that's disappointing. I feel bad for the guy.
It definitely is, because seeing everything he's been through, injury-wise, having not full seasons throughout his career, it really breaks my heart. But I'm still going to stick with him because he still leads the league in ERA. You know, so I think Hyunjin Ryu he's been struggling the past couple of starts because of exhaustion. Like we're saying, the lack of being in a full season really impacts his durability. But if he's able to get in the rhythm that he was throwing in the beginning of the season, he could definitely make a case for the Cy Young in the next 2 starts.
He's going to need, I mean, with the start that he had against the Mets, he needs that 2 more times.
Yeah,
if he does that, he may go from being out of it to being right back in it. So that's going to be a crazy thing. Obviously, you won't be back on this podcast till maybe even after the postseason.
It's up to you. It all depends who you want to invite.
This is true.
It's up to you. It's not me.
This is true. But because I've got a few other guests who want to come on, and if they do end up coming on in time, you may not be back here till after the postseason. So the next we may see you on this podcast, we may know who the World Series champion is. So that could be very interesting. But thank you, Marco. You did. Thank you so much for being here. I mean, it was great. Longest podcast by almost double. Yeah. Way more than double, actually. So it's been a lot of fun. It was great. We talked about a lot. We got a boatload of stuff in here talking Mets, Dodgers. But it's been a great day. I mean, any final thoughts before we go on?
Well, I guess the fact that you're saying it double the time, it means that we could talk baseball all day.
Absolutely.
You know? And we said it, that we had to cut up some stuff because we're just talking too much.
Yeah.
I think that's the beautiful thing about baseball. We could talk about everything that we would like to. But yeah, just Michael, thank you for the time and just for allowing me to be here. It's hopefully the listeners listening, they liked how I sounded. If anything, let Michael know so you can let me know. Anyways, just to all listeners where you're at, just take care, and hopefully you hear my voice once again. And see you guys later, and God bless you guys.
So that'll do it for this 3rd edition of the Running the Bases podcast, Season 1, Episode 3 in the books. It was a great one, and man, I couldn't be any more excited for this last stretch of baseball. But thank you, everybody that's listening out there. Thank you to Blaze Radio for giving me this opportunity. Thank you for everybody who ended up contributing to this podcast setup. Thank you, Marco, for joining us. We will see you guys all next time. Have an amazing final week or 2 in baseball.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face, tell me that you love me.